What if skipping one simple form could saddle you with hundreds of extra dollars in healthcare bills every single month, and you'd never know why? Turning 65 should feel like a milestone, a doorway to support for the years you've worked so hard. But for countless new retirees, it becomes a trap they walk right into. Most people assume Medicare enrollment is automatic or that they'll get a warning if they miss something important. They believe they'll have time to correct any mistakes. Unfortunately, that's not how the system works. There's a narrow window, just 7 months in total, when you must sign up for Parts A and B, followed by separate, often overlooked enrollment periods for supplemental coverage and prescription drug plans. Miss one deadline by a matter of days, and you can be hit with penalties that don't go away. A 10% premium hike for every year you delay Part B, a 1% lifetime penalty for each month you wait on Part D, and underwriting walls that trap you without Medigap when health issues surface. Even retirees who think they've played it smart by deferring enrollment because they still have employer insurance can be blindsided if they don't file the proper waiver paperwork. The result is more than just an annoying paperwork headache. It's coverage gaps at the exact moment you need protection most, and premiums that compound into thousands of dollars lost before you even realize what happened. In this video, we're pulling back the curtain on the hidden enrollment pitfalls that catch new 65-year-olds off guard every year. You'll learn the critical actions to take before your birthday, the common missteps to avoid at all costs, and why this one warning could save you more than you ever imagined. Stick around, because missing this could turn your golden years into a budget battle you never saw coming. Your initial enrollment period isn't a free-for-all. You've got exactly 7 months to sign up for Parts A and B, and misunderstanding even one detail can lock you into permanent penalties. That window starts 3 months before your 65th birthday month, includes the month you turn 65, and extends 3 months after. But most people either think it begins only on their birthday or assume they have a full year to decide. The result? They delay, believing they can sort it out later, only to discover they missed the cutoff. Imagine you turn 65 on July 10th and assume your window starts July 1st and ends next June 30th. In reality, it runs from April 1st through October 31st. Enroll on November 1st and you're late. That mistake carries a 10% Part B premium penalty for each full 12-month period you should have been enrolled. So, a 6-month delay becomes a 10% hike your entire life. Worse, there's no grace period. The system doesn't send reminders that your window is closing. It simply shuts you out until the next general enrollment period from January through March, with coverage not kicking in until July. That means you could go months without Part B protection, or accidentally trigger a gap in Part A if you waived, and then missed re-enrollment. Retirees we spoke with said they assumed their employer's HR would handle notifications, only to find themselves uninsured for half a year and paying full hospital rates. Others thought online sign-up was instantaneous, only to learn processing delays push their coverage start deep into the next year. The good news is you can avoid this entirely with a simple calendar alert well in advance, a quick call to Social Security before your 65th birthday, or a visit to your local SHIP counselor. Nail this step, and you'll breathe easier knowing your health coverage starts on time and without a lifetime penalty hanging over your head. But there's another deadline many new Medicare enrollees trip over. Even if you nail Parts A and initial enrollment, Part B has its own ticking clock, and missing that July 31st deadline can haunt you for life. Unlike Part A, which often kicks in automatically without a premium if you qualify, Part B requires an active sign-up and a monthly premium. That open enrollment window covers the 3 months before you turn 65, the month of your birthday, and the 3 months after, but only if you did not qualify for premium-free Part A. Many people assume that because Part A was automatic, Part B will be too, or they think they can add it anytime in the first year without consequence. That's dead wrong. Sign up on August 1st instead of July 31st, and you've triggered a permanent 10% surcharge on your monthly premium for every 12-month period you were eligible but unenrolled. Delay by just 6 months, and you're stuck with a 10% penalty forever, on top of paying your full premium. Imagine budgeting for $170 a month, only to find that you owe $187, and that extra $17 never goes away, even decades later. It sounds small, but it compounds every year, eating into fixed incomes and forcing hard choices between prescriptions, utilities, or groceries. Some retirees shrug it off as just paperwork, only to face sticker shock when their first Medicare bill arrives. Others inadvertently miss the deadline because they relied on a former employer's HR notifications, which often focus solely on employer coverage and ignore Part B entirely. And if you're still working past 65, you might think delaying makes sense, but once your employer coverage ends, it's too late to avoid the surcharge. The only way out of this trap is to enroll before that July 31st cutoff, or if you miss it, to wait until the general enrollment period, January through March, and then accept a coverage start in July, plus your lifetime penalty. There's no undo button, no appeals process for accidental missteps. That's why the smartest move is not to assume anything, but to mark July 31st on your calendar, set multiple reminders, and confirm your Part B enrollment directly through SSA, ideally weeks before your birthday month. Because skipping one deadline by a single day can cost you far more than you imagined, and that's a price you don't want to pay. After you secure original Medicare, the next critical step is lining up supplemental coverage, yet countless new enrollees stumble here, too. If you skip signing up for a Medigap policy within 6 months of your Part B effective date, insurers can subject you to medical underwriting, which means they'll look for pre-existing conditions and can deny or charge you more based on your health history. That 6-month guaranteed issue window is your only chance to lock in the standardized Medigap plan of your choice without question. Miss it, and you could find yourself stuck paying higher premiums or worse, unable to get coverage at all if you've developed health issues in the meantime. The same goes for Medicare Advantage. The annual enrollment period runs from October 15th to December 7th, but there's an initial window too, 3 months before and 3 months after your Part B start date, during which you can choose or switch Advantage plans without penalty. Yet, many assume they can enroll in Advantage whenever they like, only to discover there's no open door once that window closes. Get diagnosed with a chronic condition after the deadline, and you're forced to stay in original Medicare for a full year, negotiating deductibles and gaps on your own. We've heard from retirees battling cancer or serious joint issues who missed these windows by days, and then spent months scrambling for supplemental coverage while facing mounting medical bills. The shock of rejection or sticker shock on premiums can knock the wind out of anyone's retirement plans. The fix is straightforward. As soon as your Part B start date is confirmed, flag your calendar for both the 6-month Medigap period and the 6-month Advantage window. Call your state insurance department or a SHIP counselor to confirm dates, compare plan options, and submit applications before the deadlines slip by. Because once those enrollment doors close, the only way back often involves high costs or long waits. Pitfalls you definitely don't want lurking in your first year on Medicare. Many people assume prescription drug coverage is optional until they actually need it, and then discover a permanent penalty lurking behind Part D's doors. Your 7-month initial enrollment period applies to Part D as well, and if you don't sign up within that window, you face a 1% premium surcharge for every month you wait. That might sound small, just 1% a month, but wait 6 months and your base premium jumps 6% forever. Imagine budgeting for $30 a month on medications, only to see it climb to $31.80, then $33.60, all because you thought, I'll get to it later. Worse still, many retirees believe that switching retiree drug benefits from an employer plan to Medicare Part D automatically qualifies them for a special enrollment period, when in reality, you must notify Medicare and your plan of the creditable coverage within 63 days of losing your former coverage. Miss that notification, and Medicare treats you like a new enrollee, slapping on the penalty months before you realize anything's wrong. Then there are moves between states. If you relocate and your old Part D plan doesn't operate in your new zip code, you qualify for a limited time special enrollment period, but only if you know to ask. fail to initiate that switch within the allowable window, and you could be stuck paying out of pocket for prescriptions you thought were covered. We've heard from retirees who, after a hospital stay, found themselves facing thousands in drug costs because they never enrolled in Part D on time, and no amount of begging or backdating could erase the penalty. The bright side is that avoiding this trap is simple. Map your initial enrollment period to include Part D, confirm creditable coverage notifications with your old insurer, and if you lose or change existing drug coverage, contact Medicare within 63 days to trigger your SEP. A quick review of your Medicare and your handbook and a phone call to 1-800-MEDICARE can ensure your prescriptions stay affordable. Because in the world of retiree health benefits, waiting just a little longer can cost far more than the drugs themselves. If you thought enrolling in Part B was the final step, think again. There's one more rule that quietly trips up retirees who rely on Social Security withholding. It's called the Hold Harmless provision, and it means your Part B premiums can't increase so much that your Social Security check goes down. Sounds protective, right? But the catch is, you must be enrolled in Part B before your first Social Security benefit kicks in, or you lose the ability to have premiums automatically deducted from your check forever. That's exactly what happens to retirees who delay filing for benefits until after 65 or who start Social Security early but postpone Part B. They assume they can link everything later, only to discover that the SSA won't touch their check for Medicare premiums. Instead, they get quarterly bills. And if those payments slip even once, coverage lapses with no easy way to reinstate it. Imagine expecting a seamless transition into retirement health coverage, only to find yourself chasing down invoices, scrambling to mail checks, and worrying about a missed payment that cancels your Part B protection. Even worse, the backlog of unpaid premiums can lead to a coverage gap, forcing you to re-enroll during a general enrollment period, triggering the same lifetime penalties you fought so hard to avoid initially. Many retirees we spoke to recalled filling out endless Social Security forms at 66, thinking I'll sort out Medicare withholding later, and then spending hours on hold when bills arrived. They learned too late that creating a simple link between SSA and Medicare requires nothing more than ticking a box on your benefit application before it goes active, something that seems obvious in hindsight, but rarely gets mentioned in HR orientations or 65th birthday letters. To dodge this pitfall, plan your enrollment timeline carefully. File for Part B before you claim Social Security, verify with SSA that premiums will be withheld, and watch your first few checks to confirm the deduction appears. A little attention here spares you endless paperwork down the road and keeps your coverage intact without the stress of quarterly billing or surprise lapses. When you retire or leave a job with employer-sponsored health coverage, you might think that Medicare will automatically recognize your prior coverage, but that assumption can cost you dearly if you don't file the right paperwork. Employer or union plans that meet a creditable coverage standard can qualify you to delay enrolling in Medicare Part B or D without penalty. But to preserve that privilege, you must obtain and submit a formal notice of creditable coverage from your benefits administrator, and do it before your Medicare initial enrollment period closes. Skip this step, and Medicare treats you like someone who never had qualifying coverage, triggering late enrollment penalties and coverage gaps when you finally sign up. Retirees often assume their company's HR automatically sends this notice. In reality, many HR departments view it as a mere courtesy, not a requirement, and notices get lost in the shuffle, especially if you retire mid-year or after a brief COBRA period. Once Medicare's deadline passes, there's no do-over. That 10% Part B surcharge or 1% per month Part D penalty will stick with you for life, and proof of creditable coverage submitted later can't wipe it away. Even more surprisingly, switching from active employment to retiree health benefits can break your creditable coverage chain if you don't get a new notice. For example, a union retiree who transitions from a company plan to a union-administered benefit might think they're covered seamlessly, only to learn that the union plan's coverage isn't automatically counted. Without a fresh creditable coverage letter, Medicare assumes your protection lapsed. Then there's the wrinkle of multiple employers. If you work past 65 for two companies, each with its own plan, you need notices from both. Failing to coordinate can leave gaps you didn't even know existed. And if you relocate to another state and switch employers or retire under a different union, the new plan might have a different creditable status or paperwork process. The remedy is simple, but often overlooked. As soon as you leave any employer-sponsored coverage, request a signed notice of creditable coverage, confirm its contents, and file it with Medicare or keep it in your personal records. Follow up to ensure no missed forms, and mark your IEP deadlines accordingly. Because without this critical paperwork, you're essentially volunteering to pay lifetime penalties for missing a memo. And for many retirees, that's a surprise they wish they had avoided. Navigating Medicare as you turn 65 can feel like crossing a finish line, until you realize you've sprinted straight past critical deadlines and landed in a penalty trap that lasts for years. Your initial enrollment period is more than a suggestion. It's a hard stop that governs whether you'll pay higher premiums or face coverage gaps for life. Part B's July 31st cutoff doesn't come with reminders, and missing it by a single day can tack a permanent 10% surcharge onto your monthly bill. Signing up for Medigap or Medicare Advantage without triggering underwriting protections only works if you act within your 6-month window, or you risk denials or inflated rates the moment health issues surface. Skipping Part D might seem harmless at first, until that 1% penalty per month you wait quietly inflates your drug premium baseline and never goes away. Then there's the hold harmless rule that sounds protective until you discover you missed the checkbox tying your Part B premium to your Social Security checks, forcing you into quarterly billing and the threat of coverage lapses. And all of these deadlines can slip through your fingers if you forget to file a simple notice of creditable coverage after leaving an employer or union plan. Because without it, Medicare treats you like a newcomer with penalties that stick around for good. You've planned for decades to protect your health and your savings, and with reasons to pause, postpone, or rely on others to guide you, it's easy to overlook these rules. But the consequences aren't minor hiccups. They're lifelong hikes in premiums, irretrievable gaps in care, and the frustration of fighting to undo what the rules lock in. The good news is that none of this has to happen if you treat each window with respect. Set multiple reminders for your initial enrollment dates. Call Social Security well before your birthday month to confirm Part B sign-up. Enlist a SHIP counselor to walk through Medigap and Advantage enrollment. Review Part D deadlines alongside your drug formulary. And collect every creditable coverage notice when you retire from any job. A few proactive steps now will ensure that turning 65 opens a door to secure, affordable coverage, not a maze of paperwork penalties. Make this milestone a true victory. Cross the finish line on time, cross off every form, and step confidently into the peace of mind you deserve.